Okay, let's watch on Scarlett Johansson.
OpenAI debuted the new ChatGPT 4.0 earlier this month, showing off the AI's new ability to hold a conversation with a user.
OpenAI? Huh? Sounds vaguely familiar. Kidding, of course. That's incredible, Rocky. What kind of interview?
Well, it's for a software engineering role, but I just need to know, do I look presentable, professional?
Well, Rocky, you definitely have the I've been coding all night look down, which could actually work in your favor.
The demo may remind you of the movie Her, where Joaquin Phoenix falls in love with his AI person.
I gotta be honest too, if Sam Altman wasn't such a fucking idiot, because what happened was he reached out to Scarlett Johansson 9 months ago with a request to license her voice for a new digital assistant. Johansson said no. She declined. She never gave her permission. She then says that 2 days before the company's keynote event, which was last week, in which the new assistant was revealed, Altman reached back out to her team asking her to reconsider. Allegedly, they never spoke. She never granted OpenAI permission to use her voice. And then the day that Sky, which is the assistant, debuted, Altman tweeted Her, which is the film starring Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett Johansson, where it's Scarlett Johansson's voice, and that is what Sam Altman was referencing. He's a fucking idiot. But even though, of course, this sounds similar to Scarlett Johansson, it's going to be an easier legal battle because of all that other evidence. And because Sam Altman made it pretty damn obvious that he was wanting to replicate Scarlett Johansson and Her, and literally tweeted out Her. Yeah, classic smartest guy in the room. But the point is that I don't think, like, this is where it would get tricky, because yeah, you listen to that, sounds like Scarlett Johansson, but without all that other stuff, without knowing that like he had reached out to them multiple times, that he tweeted Her, legally, I think it would be more challenging to prove that he stole Scarlett Johansson's voice.
Personal assistant. Well, now her actor, Scarlett Johansson, claims that the company purposefully used a sound-alike after she declined to lend her actual voice to the project. OpenAI denies
It's like he thought she'd love it as soon as she saw it. Yeah, he's a fucking narcissist.
Saying its Sky voice was created with another actress speaking in her normal voice. So joining us now with more on the legal angle of this story and what it means is Carl Zabel.
Also, Altman, in response to Scarlett Johansson putting out a statement where she said she was shocked, angered, and in disbelief that he would pursue a voice that sounded eerily similar to hers, he said they had already cast a different voice actor before reaching out to Johansson. Okay. All right. And then he said that OpenAI would take down Sky from the platform out of respect for Scarlett.
Vice President and General Counsel at NetChoice and Professor of Internet Law, George Mason University's Scalia Law School. It's good to have you. And from a legal perspective here, what is the core of Johansson's argument?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. And what's really kind of cool about this case is it shows in real time that existing laws apply to AI. And we've been hearing a lot that AI is unregulated or we need new laws. But this is a great example of how existing legislation
The receipts say
can be
different,
used
sir.
to address real harms caused by AI. So what is Scarlett Johansson's claim here? Well, it's pretty simple. It's misappropriation of likeness. Essentially, she claims that OpenAI has taken her image, used it for a commercial purpose without her consent. In this case, her likeness is her voice. So what will ultimately take place is that if this suit is brought and it goes forward, there will be discovery where Scarlett Johansson tries to prove that OpenAI is trying to imitate her
OpenAI
voice, which
can't
is
even give a
her
straight answer
personal property. And OpenAI is going to claim that, no, this was just a voice actor who I guess, kind of sounds like Scarlett Johansson. Ultimately, it's going to be a fact-based determination, but it really does underscore how existing laws apply to AI, just like they do everything else.
We saw Sam Altman tweet her in the days leading up to this very demo. We're showing it now on the screen. Could that be a problem for the company?
Yeah, so ultimately, anything that leads either a judge or a jury, depending on how ultimately this proceeds,
Fucking
more evidence
idiot.
for Scarlett Johansson of how OpenAI was definitely looking at Scarlett Johansson's performance in the movie Her for inspiration of the OpenAI system will definitely help Scarlett Johansson's case against OpenAI. Now, once again, you kind of put the facts before a judge or a jury, and they'll play the clips, they'll play the sound bites from Scarlett Johansson, and
Also, narcissism is at the core of these tech creators companies, because their whole thinking is that what they are building is the future. It's so big, it's so life-changing, and countries like China are doing the same thing, so let it be us. It's a god complex. Yeah. And so they say, like, we don't need to worry about little concerns such as copyright, because at the end of the day, this technology is more important. The philosophy being, this is happening. This is the present and the future, whether you like it or not, and you will not stop us. Copyright be damned. None of that shit is as important. It doesn't hold a candle. And there are tech founders of these AI companies who have said this. Like, this is what they are either insinuating or just straight up straight up saying, where they're like, this technology is so much more important than anything else.
those individuals will ultimately make a decision.
He literally said he doesn't care if it costs $20 billion a year because he thinks they're creating AGI.
We've seen this play out before in copyright trial, for example. So Vanilla Ice famously claimed that his song Ice Ice Baby was completely different from Under Pressure. And in that, the jury kind of listened to both clips and said, no, they sound basically the same, and found for Under Pressure and the creators of that song. Once again, this is going to be a similar story here, where Scarlett Johansson's voice will be played opposite of the OpenAI voice, and the judge and jury will ultimately look to see, is this going to be actionable, and is this a taking of Scarlett Johansson's likeness?
What could the consequences be if OpenAI is found liable in this case?
Yeah, fortunately, what we often see...
Yeah, Sam Altman is such a narcissistic piece of shit. And he genuinely, like, he's been candid about this, not about being like, I'm a piece of shit. He's candid about how he believes he is altering the course of human history. That's what he thinks he's doing. With OpenAI, with building artificial general intelligence, he believes that he is ushering in a new course of human history. That this is like him creating a utopia. But the problem is that when we don't have things like universal basic income, when we don't have safety nets to protect people whose jobs are disappearing and will just continue to disappear because of things like AGI, then what you're creating is not actually a utopia. What you're creating is just more entrenched capitalism that will destroy a lot of people's lives. And if this is the situation where jobs do disappear, where AI is the future, then we have to do something about all the people who are going to be left empty-handed.
When it comes to business issues like this, is you're going to get one of two outcomes. Either one, It's going to be a financial transaction. So if, for example, the court says, yeah, Scarlett Johansson, this is your voice, they took it without your consent, then OpenAI will likely make an offer of monies to keep using the voice or likeness. Conversely, Scarlett Johansson, if she wins, gets what's called injunctive relief. That's where she can block OpenAI from using this voice. And so essentially it sends OpenAI back to the drawing board and requires them to restructure it. So Scarlett Johansson can both get paid and silence the sound-alike, or it can just be a financial transaction if Scarlett Johansson wins.
What kind of legal protections, Carl, already exist for people when it comes to impersonation? I know you mentioned some examples earlier, but is there more detail you can provide?
Yeah, so one of the things that we are seeing across the board is a lot of rush to regulate and a lot of rush to create new legislation. We've seen legislation in the states. Tennessee passed a law called the Elvis Act. And what it originally would have done would have banned the use of selfies where you use a filter. But what we're seeing is a lot of quick legislation that
Where does he rank in between Bezos, Gates, Musk, and Zuckerberg? Well, Zuckerberg is currently creating like the largest underground bunker in the world because Sam Altman thinks that he is creating a utopia, a utopian world, and Zuckerberg understands what damage billionaires have cost. And he's like, so I'm going to build this gigantic bunker so that me and mine are all safe as the world collapses. We'll be safe from all the pores.
I really appreciate the complexities of OpenAI. But what individuals can do is keep an eye out.
Okay, yo, dude, valid player, you're totally missing the argument here. Scarlett Johansson really thinks her voice is that important. That's not what this is about. Do you understand what is at the center of this? Because all of your comments are missing the point. It's not her voice, doesn't matter how much it sounds like it. You're totally missing the major problem here. I love how she thinks her voice is that unique, like there aren't millions of people who sound the same. They stole her voice, dude. Come on. I don't know why you're going to bat for OpenAI and Sam Altman. You shouldn't be doing that. That's weirdo behavior. These companies will fuck you and not think twice about it. Like if you don't think that we deserve the right to own our likenesses against people like Sam Altman, you got to rethink this. How is it a difference between someone's image and voice? So you okay, all right. Your voice is part of your likeness. I don't know how to. Yeah, is this Sam Altman's alt account? Like, you're just point blank wrong of thinking that your voice is not something that you should have ownership over. And the idea that Scarlett Johansson sounds like a million other people in the world, that's not true, first of all. Second of all, it's very clear based on all the evidence and the fact that Sam Altman is a fucking idiot and tweeted out her. And very clearly was pushing to get Scarlett Johansson on board because he already was stealing her likeness. He just wanted to make sure then that he wouldn't get in fucking trouble. And he assumed narcissistically that Scarlett Johansson would be totally down for this. You know what this is an example of? Ask for forgiveness later type of mentality where he did it. He did this and was like, if she doesn't want to be on board, we'll just kind of figure it out. But I'm sure she'll be on board. And the idea of like, oh, her voice is like a million other people's. She was the actress in Her. A movie about a guy who falls in love with an AI voice. Like, that was Scarlett Johansson. That was what Sam Altman tried to recreate here. I just fundamentally disagree with the idea that your voice is different from your image, so therefore you don't own the right to your voice. Sorry, just gotta say there's not a million voices that are exactly the same. They're not.
For whenever somebody is using your likeness, your image for a commercial purpose without your consent.
And I also think, more importantly, is what this is, a microcosm of. That's what's happening here. It's only one example, but it's how it underpins the philosophy of these Silicon Valley tech founders and these AI companies believing that copyright and ownership is secondary to how great this technology is that they're creating. And it's how, like, we've had this conversation for so many months now about how, like, all the ethical concerns, how these companies are operating with no regard to any ethics whatsoever, and how we're seeing artists who don't have resources like Scarlett Johansson get fucked over, and it's kind of you have no choice. So you either get on board and try and get your piece of the pie, or you just get fucked. And it's the fact that, like, at the center of this is the moral debate over scraping the internet for data without the consent of creators or copyright owners. And this is a perfect example of that. So every time someone's like, oh no, it's going to be fine. Look, we've got this company that these filmmakers are starting, and the whole point of it is to, like, protect creators. Oh, tangible ownership. And then this happens to Scarlett Johansson. This is not some random actress who has no ability to make this a big story and hold OpenAI accountable. Like, there are many artists, many smaller companies that have sued AI companies for the same reason, and yet they have soldiered on. These AI companies have soldiered on, and so it's a big deal that this has happened because of who Scarlett Johansson is. And because of how big it makes this story. And because of how it highlights the philosophy that underpins these companies, which is, we're going to do this to anybody. This is happening whether you like it or not. Doesn't matter. Roro Helio, thank you for the 16 months. Brainiac, thank you for the 9 months.
You have actionable items today that you can take against that. Similarly, we are working at NetChoice, my company, with states and federal government.
There are people who have that exact voice. That's not true. There are similar sounding voices. Nobody has the exact same voice. That's not scientifically how that works. Like, I sound similar to other people in this world. Nobody has the exact same voice as me.
To create new laws to fill in gaps where AI fails to cover issues such as revenge porn created by AI and child sexual abuse material created with AI. That's where we are actively trying to do gap filling. But the good news is a lot of existing laws, in fact, almost every single existing law already applies to AI. So if somebody steals your image, whether it's offline, online, or with an AI, you have restitution, and the bad guys cannot hide behind computers.
We also saw AI being used to create deepfake, explicit content of Taylor Swift on X.
Not gonna lie, this lawyer kind of speaks like an AI. Velberg, thank you for the 6 months. I just watched a UK TV show called The Capture that perfectly shows why AI is very bad for your image and voice.
Last year, is there any way that celebrities can control the use of their image by these services?
Yeah, so Scarlett Johansson's kind of showing exactly how this would play out. Essentially, you bring the suit against the company that's doing it, and they will be financially responsible. Simultaneously, one of the things that we're doing is for everyone, even if you are not a celebrity, we are trying to make sure that those protections are in existence. So one of the things that we are doing at NetChoice is trying to enact legislation that gives individuals the rights to bring somebody into court with a suit if they use your image, if they use your likeness in a compromised position using AI. That way we can empower individuals and celebrities alike so that everyone can make sure that their rights and their privacy are protected regardless of how it gets abused.
I want you to talk more about what the recourse would be for a normal person who doesn't obviously have the resources or the stature of a celebrity. If they are targeted by a deep fake, how should they go about getting?
Yeah, make no mistake, my brain. Don't forget that Scarlett Johansson has already been at the center of the AI conversation because of deepfakes. Scarlett has done some things in her career that are thumbs down, but there have been other things that she's done using her power and her celebrity to fight against things like her likeness being stolen by Sam Altman or AI pornographic deepfakes being made of her that helps the little guys, that helps the ones who don't have the resources that she has.
Getting a right remedy to that.
Yeah, so one of the things that you need to do is contact the service where it's being held, contact an attorney. So a lot of services, platforms, once they become aware of bad content on there, they actually remove it pretty darn quickly, especially if it's something of nudity or intimate images. In fact, most platforms have policies against even hosting that content. So as soon as you see it, flag it, and it should be able to come down. The other thing is a lot of the platforms use a service called Lighthouse, where they can actually tag digital identifiers in those images so that they don't pop back up on the same service and they don't pop up on sister sites as well. But ultimately, the bad actor who did the bad thing needs to be held accountable. And that's where the attorneys come in. Granted, I teach at a law school, so yes, that will mean job opportunities for my students. But also simultaneously, we're doing some good because we're going to hold the bad actors responsible for their misdeeds. And ultimately, that's how the message gets out. When government and individuals begin using lawsuits and litigation and criminal justice to make clear that you can't just hide behind a computer, the message will get out real fast, and the bad guys will learn real quickly that you can't just use AI and expect to get away with it.
All right, Carl Szabo, Vice President and General Counsel at NetChoice. Carl, thank you so much for joining.
This is a quote by Charlie Warzel, who writes about technology for The Atlantic. Hubris and entitlement are inherent in the development of any transformative technology. A small group of people need to feel confident enough in its vision to bring it into the world and ask the rest of us to adapt. But generative AI stretches this dynamic to the point of absurdity. It is a technology that requires a mindset of manifest destiny, of dominion and conquest. It's not stealing to build the future if you believe it has belonged to you all along. And that is the mentality of people like Sam Altman, where rules need not apply when we are rewriting the rules of society. We have a higher purpose here. Exactly. I want to read Scarlett's statement. I think I have it pulled up. Where is it? Right here. Last September, I received an offer from Sam Altman, who wanted to hire me to voice the current ChatGPT 4.0 system. He told me that he felt that by my voicing the system, I could bridge the gap between tech companies and creatives and help consumers to feel comfortable with the seismic shift concerning humans and AI. He said he felt that my voice would be comforting to people. After much consideration and for personal reasons, I declined the offer. 9 months later, my friends, family, and the general public all noted how much the newest system, named Sky, sounded like me. When I heard the release demo, I was shocked, angered, and in disbelief that Mr. Altman would pursue a voice that sounded so eerily similar to mine that my closest friends and news outlets could not tell the difference. Mr. Altman even insinuated that the similarity was intentional. tweeting a single word, her, a reference to the film in which I voiced a chat system, Samantha, who forms an intimate relationship with a human. 2 days before the ChatGPT 4.0 demo was released, Mr. Altman contacted my agent asking me to reconsider. Before we could connect, the system was out there. As a result of their actions, I was forced to hire legal counsel who wrote 2 letters to Mr. Altman and OpenAI, setting out what they had done and asking them to detail the exact process by which they created the Sky Voice. Consequently, OpenAI reluctantly agreed to take down the Sky Voice. In a time when we are all grappling with deepfakes and the protection of our own likeness, our own work, our own identities, I believe these are questions that deserve absolute clarity. I look forward to resolution in the form of transparency and the passage of appropriate legislation to help ensure that individual rights are protected. And this is my problem. And what I was saying when we were reading through this is that there is no transparency. It's just the same bullshit rhetoric used by all of these AI companies. Oh, this is the future. Tangible ownership. AI is here to stay. So we just got to make sure that we protect creators. If you, if you want to, if you are worried about being replaced by AI, fear not, because this is a moral and ethical AI company. But how? How is this different than the other AI companies? Now, is it just because it's creatives themselves who have started this AI company? Because it seems to me as if they're doing that just to make sure that they're a part of this new future so that they do make some cash off of this.